songs, let me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
I wanted to be, successful in what my chosen profession. And one of the things I'm really big on is when you go to an organization, you want to leave it better than when you got there. So I believe in succession planning. I believe in mentoring.
We are live, just chatting with my good friend Papa J from California, the legend. He is now retired, and
we're close to retirement.
close to retirement, and that means now he's really going to start working. Most people work harder in retirement than they do when they're got a job, so to speak. But welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I remember we talk about it sometimes, but I remember back when I met Craig, somebody like that. Hey, you called me, and I called a friend of mine, happens to be Liddy Gutfeld. I'm like, hey, this Craig guy. He's like, oh, he's pretty cool. And then when we started talking, and I actually was on that first show, I had said that you're going to do some things. Now you're over 500, almost 530 show at 527 right now. Yeah. Thousands of people. You went from one show to, I think it's 10 or so.
Yeah.
I get in 18 months too. 18 months. You've made some incredible things happen. But yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, moving right along. Well, all right. So before we get the show started, we're going to talk about some of those shows. And so you can kind of pitch in as I go through describing them. So what you're on right now, this is called the Leadership Series, Monday through Friday now, but the Friday show's got a little extra twist to it. We're going to call it the Dr. Pepper Club and we'll talk about what that is when we start the show. But this is a 12 noon Eastern time show now Monday through Friday. So we finally fill out the week at that 12 noon time slot. So then we got our 1:30 time slot, which is now jam packed. So every Monday we do two shows, the second and fourth Monday of every month with our very talented host, Dave Ramirez. He also works with Outdoor Link. They sponsor that show. And it talked about the technology and hardware that is coming into our park systems. And so as our cities start to become interconnected smart cities where the infrastructure is now smart, it's not just like a dumb light switch. It can talk back and forth to it. So that's a really good show. Then that brings us to Tuesday. And I think John very well. Johnathan Prue helps us to produce On the Front Line every Tuesday since the first Tuesday of January this year. And he has just been creating phenomenal content. So if you are in the military and you've played basketball or gone swimming on base or something, there's a Parks and Rec professional that's running that whole show across all 300 military bases. And he's been doing this for like 40 years for the Navy and stuff. So he does great shows there. How do you know John, by the way?
Oh, John and I were very fortunate. A mutual friend of ours, Sven Leff, who actually is a general manager up in Truckee, he pulled me in to be on the CPC, which is the group that picks all the sessions for the National Parks and Recreation Association conference that we have every year. And John and I served on that for several years, got to know this guy. And, his show, if you listen to it, you'd learn a lot about military recreation. And one of the things he says as it starts is, whether you're in military recreation or just interested in understanding it, this is a great show for you. And it actually is. You learn so much. My son was in the Army. My son-in-law was in the Navy. My dad was in the Air Force. So I have a connection there, even though I don't do that recreation. I can learn a lot about, how they serve the military and, thank everybody for their service. But it gives us as civilians an opportunity to see all the inner workings of not only how they serve recreation, but also how they serve that whole community.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a great show. And he's super talented. One of the things we're doing here, in addition to creating this massive megaphone for the Parks and Rec industry, is who's shouting into that megaphone. And so that's all the show hosts. And so we're all trying to improve ourselves as great representatives and talented show hosts that can, help tell the great story with our guests. And John has like raised the bar on show hosting. Like he is so well organized, and he's got all his opening monologue is just amazing. And so now we're all looking at ourselves and our own shows like, okay, we got to up our game here because John's all wiping the floor with us. So
Definitely got stuff to work on there.
that's it. All right. So that brings us to, by the way, this is just going to be a much longer opening monologue as we kind of go through the shows. But so then we come to Wednesday. We produce 2 shows, first and second Wednesday of every month with Henry County, Georgia. The very talented Thomas White over at Henry County, Georgia, approached us and said, can we make a show about mental health and how Parks and Rec plays in the mental health and stability of our community? And so we recently launched that a few months ago. That's on the first Wednesday of every month. Second Wednesday of every month, we've been producing for quite a while a show called The Rec Room. And this was an idea of Henry County, Georgia, because they are truly one of the best run Parks and Rec departments in America. And they wanted to share all their wisdom, not just like one person or their director, but the entire department. So the concept there is they pick one topic like a 5K or special events or master planning, and then they bring in all the stakeholders from their entire department. And so you have like 5 people all talking about master planning, and that's called The Rec Room, second Wednesday of every month. Then that brings us to our oldest running show aside from this one with Aaron Lux, also from California. California is just producing some amazing people. But he does a Thursday show every Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, called Youth Sports Mastery. And he has been involved in youth sports for like 40 years. And with a focus on rec sports, not just your competitive sports, but recreation sports that's run inside of Parks and Rec department, and how important that is to the not so athletic children that come to rec sports. And that rec sport is for everyone. It's not just for the future D1 athletes and stuff. So another amazing show on there. And then that brings us to, let me not forget, Thursday evening, 5 p.m., the Young Professionals Network. Big shout out to Molly Keys and Gabby Vera. They introduced me to that whole world, and eventually we gave birth to a regular weekly show, all for the young professionals. And let me take a minute to describe the different buckets of people that fit in that young professional show. Obviously, the kids are the students. So even high school kids and college kids that are pursuing degrees that want to go into Parks and Rec professionals, we've had them on the show to talk about what they're learning in school. So that's the first primary bucket that fits in there. Also, if you're a first-time full-timer in Parks and Rec, first 1 to 5 years, and you're drinking from 10 fire hose at the same time, trying to figure out what is Parks and Rec, that's another population that fits well on that show. Third population is if you're an intern or if you have an internship program. So if you're a director with a strong internship program and you have some interns, we would love to have you and your interns on the show to talk about your internship program. And we've done several shows like that. We've had a director with like 2 interns. Also, if you are the last population is if you're a professor teaching at university for Parks and Rec degrees, we'd love to have you all on the show as well. So that's kind of all the people that fit in that Young Professionals Network every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And that brings us to today. For the first time, we have our leadership series with our first show guest and show host, Papa J. And then immediately followed by our latest edition with Wesley King. Got to be the most knowledgeable man I have personally ever met when it comes to aquatics. He helped us to start the Aquatics Life show immediately following this show. So stay tuned when me and Papa J are finished talking. That's an amazing show. And then, Wesley as well. How did y'all hook up?
Well, actually, we actually hooked up through you. Once we started, and what Craig does with all of the podcasters is we meet once a month and we talk about different things. And so Wesley saw my information. He says, hey, I'd like to get to meet you. And so we've been communicating back and forth. And not only does he know aquatics inside and out, he also knows how to reach out to people. And so he's doing a great job of helping me get to that next level of being able to communicate. So one of the things that Craig really wants with us, with the podcasters, is to integrate and interdiscuss. One of my best friends, her name is Nikki Bonner, who's over in Texas. She is an aquatics aficionado, which Wesley probably knows her, but I don't know if they've been on the show together. And she's a gold mine of aquatics knowledge. Her facility in Texas is an award winner over and over again, and she's done international speaking. So, Wesley and Jordan and the rest of the team that's come together is, Craig has his own little Avengers team.
That's
we all
right.
have different kind of things that we're going to be bringing to the table. So it's really exciting to be part of this team.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing that kind of clicked for me as we started to build out the different shows that I wasn't hosting. And of course, I can't really speak on aquatics. Matter of fact, I'm like the village idiot on the aquatic show, asking all the questions that someone not in aquatics would ask. And then Wesley gets to like color them in and make them more adult answers. But one of the things we're doing is just like when you see the major news networks, obviously these news anchors, this isn't like a volunteer gig for them. It's a full-time job, and they are truly professionals at representing an industry, delivering the news, interviewing people, holding the stage, building trust. And that's kind of one of our jobs here at the Daily Parks and Rec Show, is to really invest in our show hosts so that they're better representatives of the Parks and Rec industry. And so I think we do have quite I think we're kind of like the island of misfit toys, aspiring to become the Avengers. but we really have some talented people there, and they're so passionate about Parks and Rec. So I can't think of a better group of people to represent this industry than y'all. All right. With all that being said, let's go ahead and play our 500th episode. Thank you to everyone that's come on the show. Big shout out to Papa J for being a multiple time guest on the show. And we couldn't do it without y'all. It really is y'all's story that we're trying to tell. The Parks and Rec story is as much the story of the professionals inside the industry as much as it is about the industry itself and what it does for their community. They're kind of like the people behind the industry that's building community nonstop in every city in America. So, Jovi, why don't you go ahead and play that, and we'll come back and kick off our conversation with Johnathan.
It didn't start with a big studio. It didn't start with a massive audience. It started with a simple idea. One conversation, one camera, one episode. Back then, DPRS Media Network was just a vision. No guarantees, no roadmap, just a purpose. To tell stories that mattered. Stories from the Parks and Recreation community. Stories of leadership, passion, impact, and the people making a difference every single day. Episode by episode, that vision began to grow. More conversations, more voices, more people who believed in what we were building. What started as a show became something much bigger. A place where people felt seen, a place where ideas were shared, a place where the Parks and Rec community could connect, learn, and inspire one another. And today, we celebrate a major milestone. 500 episodes, 500 stories, 500 moments, 500 reasons to keep moving forward. But this is not the finish line. This is the beginning of our next chapter. In the months ahead and in the years to come, DPRS Media Network is growing into something even greater. We are building something truly special for the Parks and Recreation community. Something designed to bring people closer, to create stronger connections, to open new opportunities, and to continue serving the people who inspire everything we do. We are also expanding our reach through new partnerships, working with organizations who believe in our mission, partners who share our vision for community, leadership, and impact. And beyond the screen, we're showing up in more places than ever before, attending conferences, meeting leaders face-to-face, building connections that strengthen our community. Because DPRS has never been just about content. It has always been about connection. To everyone who has been with us, from episode 1 to episode 500, thank you. This milestone belongs to all of you. Here's to how it all started. And here's to everything still to come. The future of DPRS Media Network starts now.
All right. Big shout out to Chris for making that, man. He is just killing it. He is one of our very talented video editors, and he creates all of our promos for us. What he does literally full time, 50, 60 hours a week, just make promos for us. So hats off to him for that.
That is amazing. Every time I watch something that he puts together, it just brings it back to what you created. And, it started out with one show, and I was just looking on the panel. Hopefully everybody took a look at that panel and all the different shows that are available. And there's more that are coming. Craig and I talked about some things that possibly I could be looking at in addition to the leadership series. And you know what it is? It is a weekly conference. When you go to a conference, they have so many different sessions that you want to go to. One of the best things about being part of DPRS and the shows that are going on, you're able to watch them again and again and again and learn something each time that you watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. And along those lines, if there's any show idea that anyone in the audience has, we already know. Like a great example is there's an aquatic story being told inside. It's almost like a family. You've got like the kids have their own little stories going on inside the family that are unique. And so we already know that we could probably make more shows than a 24/7 network could even host. But if there's a show that really is coming to mind, and especially for you, Johnathan, if there's some piece of content that you're like, this is relevant content for this community, I'd love to make a show on this and highlight what's going on, just let me know and we'll produce it.
Yeah, Craig and I were talking at one time. One of the big things out here in Lake Elsinore is our senior population, and our senior center coordinator and supervisor, Priscilla Perez is the supervisor, and Julie Matul is her coordinator. They have changed the fabric and the face of senior programming here in Lake Elsinore to the point that they are actually recognized by NRPA as one of the leaders in senior programming in the nation. They've actually been written up several times for the kind of programming that they've done and the outreach that they have done. They've received several awards, financial awards. They're helping us get the equipment to make things happen and make our seniors healthier. So these are going around all over the country, and to be able to have a platform to do that, I think that's something that's it could be on the horizon. So.
Oh, absolutely. We definitely need a senior show. Senior centers. What do they call active adults? I think is the new PC phrase that we use. I think that's just an excuse for the 50-year-olds to get involved in all the exciting stuff that the 70-year-olds are doing.
Yeah. So exciting, and to be again part of this organization is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really is. One thing I wanted to talk about, I'm curious is where this comes from, but even from the moment I met you, you just come across as this person that's just so easy to talk to, and so many people enjoy their relationship with you. And then the way you can create content online, the way you create connection online, it just seems to naturally flow from you. Where does that come from? Have you always been like that as a child, or is this something you developed later in life? Or
Actually, it's been since I was a child. I think I might have told you the story, but I started in recreation. I was 7.5 years old. I
wow.
went to a day camp. My brother, who played high school football, I'm one of 8 kids, and so you learn to communicate a lot when you're trying to get your breakfast, and your dad's in the military, and you got to eat at a certain time, and your mom is works at the local hospital, so your family's known in a very small community, Lompoc, California. The population when I was growing up was about 25,000. But anyway, so we've always been taught to be respectful of people and to get to know people on a personal level. So at 7.5 years old, I got to be a junior CIT, which is a counselor in training. And they actually gave me responsibilities that they were giving their counselors. We would take trips from Lompoc down to LA, and it was like a 4-hour trip, and to watch the Lakers play back when tickets were affordable. And so they put me in charge of different groups and stuff. And Ken Ostini, who is my recreational Obi-Wan Kenobi, gave me these opportunities. And it's something that I really gravitated to because I love people. I really do. Even the people that don't like me, I figure that there's some kind of value that they have, and I respect, people's difference of opinion. And so it's just something natural that I've had, and it's a blessing. And so when I communicate with people, I usually just a friend of mine, and I believe Shane Mize from Reckless.
Yeah.
This is another podcast show that's Parks and Recreations centric. Him and Jay Tryon and Tom Venero. What Shane says, when you talk to Papa Jay, or he calls me Johnny O. But when you talk to Johnny O, it's like you're bellying up to the bar and you're just sitting there and you're talking. Next thing you know, it's 4 hours later. My wife says, honey, you can actually talk to a wall and become a friend with the wall. And it's my superpower is just I listen, and I try to not empathize but understand where people are coming from, and a lot of times people open up with that. And I love the fact that God and my parents gave me that ability to do that. So.
Yeah, yeah, it must have been great. I also had a lot of kids. I only was one of 3, but I saw that large family dynamic, you being one of 8. And I remember, my kids never got an option of what they were gonna eat. It was just whether you, got to the trough fast enough before the food ran out.
Exactly. And we all played. I was I guess, if you, for lack of a better term, I was a politician of the family. I was on the student council and social chair for my fraternity and that kind of stuff. And my oldest brother was kind of like the brainiac. He went to Stanford and UCLA. And the oldest of us, Valerie, was. And she still does. She's in her 70s now, but she did dance in high school and college, and she was the homecoming in the homecoming court. And my other sister was the director of field services for the City of LA, which years ago when we had the whole recession, and I was up in Reno, and I had to. I was talking to my sister Angie, and we're talking about cutting budgets. So like, yeah, Angie, I have to cut, $500,000 out of my budget. She goes, yeah, I know what you mean. I had to cut off 30 million out of mine. I'm like, okay, you win. Not going to win that fight. But then, my other siblings were very very musically inclined. I mean, they could pick up a guitar or trumpet or anything like that and be able to play it just from hearing things by ear. And so, come from a very eclectic family. But we also, even though we had all these great things happen, we also had um, trouble within our family. We a brother that was addicted to drugs, and he actually, unfortunately, he passed away 2 years ago, um, from that addiction, and that again was a growth experience for me to look at things that you don't want to do. That I wanted to be, you know, um, successful in what I my chosen profession. And one of the things I'm really big on is when you go to an organization, you want to leave it better than when you got there. So I believe in succession planning. I believe in mentoring. We haven't really talked about it, but I was very fortunate in March of this year to be inducted into the California Parks and Recreation Society Hall of Fame.
Mm.
And it started in 1951, and since 1951 there's been less than 100. I think I'm number 98 that's been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And one of the things that was touted by Liddy, who wrote my application and stuff, was that I believe in mentoring. I believe that we have an opportunity, like what you're doing here, especially through the Young Professional Network show and other ones, is we're given opportunities to not not really educate, but to inform these young professionals of what we went through, and so they don't have to go through the pitfalls that we went through, and they have the opportunity to create and make fantastic things happen on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
that's a long-winded of how I got to be where I'm at, and why I do the things that I do.
I don't know if I told you this. We're actually, one of our next shows that we're producing is a performing arts. We have, again, California just taken over here. We have a lady from, I forget which city she does ballet in, but she is like a world-class ballerina. She's going to the best ballerina school really in the world. And she found a way to do what she's passionate about in the Parks and Rec department. And so you can get world-class teaching as part of your programming where she's at. So these little girls that would never be able to afford her classes or stuff now can sign up for it, just like you're signing up for baseball. And so she's going to produce a weekly or a monthly show. We're going back and forth, all on performing arts. Maybe one of her guests could be your sister if she's open to it.
Oh, my sister talks more than 90, so I think we're talking about a 4-hour show there.
Yeah.
And again, Craig, that's the opportunity that DPRS makes available for people to share their experiences. And it's not that you have to recreate the wheel. You just might need to change the tire to make it adaptable to your facility or whatever.
Yeah. So we had her as a guest on the show, and this is happening all over the country in Parks and Rec. You'll have somebody say, great example up in Connecticut, Michael, I forget his last name. They wanted to start STEM programs, and they have a community center, they have a room, and they equipped it with 3D printers, little robotics stuff, stuff for engineering and mathematics, a big Lego thing. And now they've pushed like 8,000 kids through this STEM program as part of their after school care and stuff. And that's just a great example. And then they've already had other people, because they've been on the show, have reached out to them and say, give us the playbook. How did you do it? And of course, how Parks and Rec is. They just like send them the entire playbook.
Guilty as charged. Yes.
Yeah. And so, same thing with performing arts. There are ballerinas that would love to find a way to make this a profession and be able to partner with the Parks and Rec department to have their art form as some program that is offered by your Parks and Rec department. And so if we can just highlight one successful story of doing that, then we've got 12,000 cities that have the opportunity to do this, to replicate what they've done.
Very, very true. Very true. I have a question for you. When we talked and 17 months ago, 18, 20, well, 17 months ago, you had an idea for this. Tell me how your idea got to be where we're at right now, and then where do you look at this being, 18 months from now?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like everything else. You wonder, are there any new ideas, or do we just kind of discover someone doing something in some other part of the world and saying, I could do that same thing in my part of the world? And so I grew up in a very Catholic family that watched EWTN 24/7 network. Just I had the nuns singing and the rosary playing. And if it wasn't that, my dad was watching news. And so I just grew up with the background noise of constant media just being pumped into my house or my home. And so then I went on to build businesses and stuff like that. I was one of the vendors for quite a while in the Parks and Rec space. I retired from that thanks to something I discovered called Bitcoin. And I got to thinking, we need a Bitcoin network. And so I started to build the Bitcoin Daily Show, and I had other shows and show hosts about all the different topics. And we grew that to such a large scale that the industry invited us to attend the largest Bitcoin conference in the world. And that was in Nashville, Tennessee at the time. And Johnathan, when I showed up, I thought I was going to be the only media company there. There were 42 other media companies all producing amazing content for a very young industry that was only 16 years old. Bitcoin was started in like 2009. 2008, February, October. My Bitcoiners would tease me on that one. And when I saw that media presence, it's like walking into a vendor hall, but half the vendors are just content creators. And so, when you walk into a vendor hall at a Parks and Rec event, it's just overwhelming, the presence, the energy. Well, imagine if that was just like Reckless times 20 or times 40 with all their different personalities and content creation and storytelling. And I was like, okay, I've been to Parks and Rec events for decades, and I've never seen anything like this. And so I looked at my show, at my team, and I said, y'all can have it. Take it. I am going back to my old industry and help them tell their story, because they're 100 years old with trillions of dollars of assets under management. And it's the best kept secret. Nobody's telling the story of Parks and Rec. And so that's kind of where the idea came from. But again, it was just like when you see a STEM program running well in Connecticut and saying, I want to do that over here. So when I grew up with constant content creation for the Catholic Church and for news, and then I did something similar in Bitcoin, and I saw that I have a whole industry that meant a ton to me growing up that no one's telling their story. So I'm like, I'm going to do the same thing that ESPN does for sports people. We're going to do that for Parks and Recreation.
Well, that's amazing. And so seeing that basis that you have and that, there's other ones that are doing similar types of things. What are you looking at setting EPRS apart? Not taking over, but setting it apart from other ones that might be having a media content similar to what's out there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, let's just say you were a content creator on men's college basketball and you're just killing it, and your channels are growing and everything's doing well, and you're doing so well that you get a phone call from ESPN and say, hey, we have a network that does nothing but sports. We want to give you a show on our network. So we want to be that network. And so it's a standing offer for anyone creating content for the Parks and Rec industry. We'll produce your content and help you distribute it for, here's the price tag, $0 for free. We're just looking to get the message out. And so if you're a content creator and want to keep going, do it on your own. I love what you're doing. Anything we can do to help. But if you'd like to kind of plug your content into our network so that you get wider distribution and some video editing and software talent that you don't have to pay for, our purpose is to just get the message out. And we don't care who's giving the message. If they're loved by the community, you're in. And if we can help you in any way, reach out to me, and we'd love to have you as part of the team.
And see, I love that friendly, competitive attitude, meaning that, you know what? Let's take, for instance, Reckless. I love the guys at Reckless. I've been on their show before, but DPRS has similar but different. And it's like, hey, you can do you, I can do me, we can do us, and you work together, but in separate houses, if that makes sense. And I think that gives opportunities for people to, like, I watch a couple different news stations when you talk about news. So I watch Channel 7 in the morning. I watch Channel 4 in the evening.
Yeah.
They have similar information, but depending on what I'm looking for at that time of day, that's the one that I go to. And I think having different recreational outlets to learn things, and there's, cross guests on the different shows, and the different kind of questions that are asked give a broader opportunity for recreation to grow and see different perspectives of how people are interviewed and the information that comes out. So again, having this platform is really awesome.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it as, and this again comes from my background with the Bitcoin industry. I was very close friends with a lot of the great content creators of the Bitcoin space. And Lynn Alden is a globally respected economist that would come on all of our shows anytime she had a book release. So you're still coming on a Bitcoin show. So we're all talking about Bitcoin. And a lot of us have had the same person as our guest. But I wanted to hear how, this guy interviewed her, and then how people wanted to hear how I interviewed her. And it was all different questions. So in a very similar frame of logic, we might have, say, someone that just is the 98th inductee into the Hall of Fame for California on our show. And then Aaron's like, well, I want to get him on my show. And then Wesley's like, well, I want to get him on my show. And so we're all like fighting to have somebody that's well respected, that has a great story. We all want to pump it out to our audience. And we all have our different flavor. So Aaron's going to ask different questions than me. John's going to ask different questions, maybe from a military aspect. And so you've got your content creators that people fall in love with how they produce content, even though they're interviewing sometimes the same people talking about very similar topics. That's just how the industry works.
Well, that's really awesome, man. Again, it's just mind blowing of where things are. One of the things that I talked a lot about is the 5 W's: the who, what, when, where, why. And for somebody who might be interested in approaching you on a podcast or doing a podcast, what would be those 5 W's that you would have somebody, want to be able to answer when they came to you with an idea for a show?
Yeah. Well, I look at it that, let's just take music, for instance. And so it'd be challenging to create content if you just don't have a love for music. Let's just say you just don't like music, or you can't play an instrument. And so that's kind of like the first thing we look for is, do you have a love for Parks and Recreation? How are you tied to the mission? What part of Parks and Rec did you come from, kind of stuff. And so that's kind of just make sure you have the last name of the family, and our last name is Parks and Rec. So that's a good one. And then do you have a passion for playing music? Do you have a passion for creating content? And this is kind of like your art form. So just like musicians, their art form is music, creating content is an art form in and of itself. Do you like creating video content? Do you like interviewing people? Do you like storytelling? Do you like building community? Do you like the tech side of how it distributes on Facebook versus LinkedIn? And so if you're just like a student of that, it's very similar to how musicians they like playing guitar, but they also like playing drums. They like playing jazz. They like playing rock. And so it's the same thing. You're kind of like your art craft is content creation in the industry of Parks and Recreation. And so if that sounds like you, or let's say you're just a student of broadcast journalism and you just love covering the latest story, then those make good fits as well.
I
as
think
far as
that's yeah, I think that's pretty incredible. So, you know, I've been thinking about, this and coming in and doing this podcast thing. For those who don't know, I work for the City of Lake Elsinore. Love this city. I've been here for 11 and a half years, and Craig knows this, that I'll be retiring actually from the city. And I was looking for an opportunity to carry on my recreational journey, not really for a city, but for an organization that would be a stepping stone for me to possibly do other things. And DPRS was an excellent segue in order for me to do this. I keep touting Craig because I mean we've talked for 18 months, 17 months, and I've seen the growth that has happened through DPRS and listened to a lot of the shows. People, if you're out there looking for whatever you're looking for, there's a show that's available. There's a podcast that's available here. And Craig gave the rundown Monday through Friday. He actually gives us Saturday and Sunday off, but we're also working on content for the week. But it's an opportunity for you to be able to get that kind of content in one location. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and actually, 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern time, we do reruns 7 days a week. And so we go find some of our best shows and we kind of repackage them and clean them up a little bit more. And then we run reruns 6 to 9. Similar to how you see like at the 2 a.m. slots, they may just be running the 7 p.m. show at 2 a.m. and stuff. So you can even see 7 days a week. You can still see Parks and Recreation, even though it's not live created. And I completely forgot to give a big shout out to our show sponsors. We were supposed to do it at the 30-minute mark, but me and Johnathan just had such a good time talking.
My fault.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and thank those two, our two major sponsors here at the show that really got us off the ground running. Without our vendor community supporting the work that we're doing, it's kind of like me and Johnathan have a pile of fifth graders going fishing in the bus, and we're like, did you get fuel in the tank? Like, budget for that. So thank you so much to Outdoor Link and the National Academy of Athletics for putting fuel in the tank so that we can create this for the industry. So Outdoor Link is, they're a hardware company that also has a software team. They're 100% US based. They're here in Huntsville, Alabama. And I've been to their physical location. It's amazing. And even their customer service has that Alabama accent. 3 ladies, I've met them. And so they're just a great team, well-run company. And Dave Ramirez is in charge of getting the word out for them. He also is one of our show hosts. But if you have a smart home right now, imagine if you had a smart city where all of your infrastructure is connected to your software and a centralized device so you can control your splash pads, your bathroom door locks, your security lights, your baseball field lights, put it all on the schedule so that you're not getting copies of keys and handing it out to these volunteer coaches so they can turn on the lights and stuff. So really great company. And as again, they've been an early sponsor of the Daily Parks and Rec show. And then the National Academy of Athletics. So this is actually a franchise company founded by Aaron Locks, and he has spent 40 years in rec sports. And so understands it on a super deep level and is very well connected to athletic directors, pro athletes, coaches throughout the country. And so every Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, he hosts the show, but his company is also helping to fuel the Daily Parks and Rec show. So if you are, say, a coach and want to do it full time and work with cities, running programs for the cities treat them kind of like a buffet where they're like, well, look, we've got baseball, we've got football, but we have people that want us to start a flag football league and a lacrosse league, and we're really not geared up for that. So Aaron and his team will just run those for you in a partnership. And so really great company. So Jovi, why don't you go ahead and play those 2 promos for those 2 companies, and then we'll come right back and finish up our conversation with Johnathan.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly. From lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec, it's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs, we're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
All right. So let me tell you what I was thinking during that break. One of the things that we're frustrated here as hosts with the Daily Parks and Rec Show is sometimes the technology just wigs out on us. And it got me to thinking back some of our interviews that we've had. I look at it this way, sail the seas that you're in, not the seas that you want to be in. Take the opportunities that are in front of you. They might not be the most ideal, but there's so much growth that happens just by saying yes to what's in front of you. And then the stuff will come in time. So what are some of the opportunities in your life that you've kind of taken advantage of that have paid off, even though they might not have been the most ideal? You see that you kind of grew through those maybe obstacles.
I would say getting married is was not, it was an obstacle, but you know what? It was different. And I'm kind of a real guy and that kind of stuff. And when my wife and I actually met and everything, we she's white and I'm black, and so there was on her family side there was some tension that was there, and we had to navigate through that tension. When she got pregnant, we had individuals on various sides of the family like, well, we can't be happy for you, we can't, and it was part of, and this goes back to my upbringing and everything, is I try to bring people along for the journey, because the journey is really where the growth happens. And I call my daughter, Brianna, I call her the great equalizer, because, quite honestly, it was Janelle's mom who was not very happy about it. They didn't come to the wedding. They, when she was pregnant, they were like, well, really can't be happy for you. And I actually went to her mom and said, listen, this is a lifelong situation that's happening here. And you need to understand that you're going to be part of this family. So I had her go to Lamaze classes. I had her there for the birth and everything. And so Brianna was the great equalizer, and actually had my mother-in-law change her mind and for the last 10 years of her life before she passed away, we were as thick as thieves. We were doing everything together, and that was a stepping stone or a journey that I took, because it was really important to me to make sure that we gave every opportunity for her to be part of the family, and that paid off in huge dividends. The other one was, I was born in Texas. I moved to California when I was very young, but I'm still a Dallas Cowboy fan. And so me moving the family to Reno, Nevada, to work in Incline Village in Tahoe was a big stepping stone. I was established in California, and I had various opportunities there. But for me to take that leap of faith, if you will, and it was the first couple of years. It was a little challenging, because we changed leadership, and I went for the director position, and I wasn't chosen. But I used that as an opportunity for success, as I call it. That's what we call failure, as an opportunity for success, to see how I can improve myself.
Mm.
And so I learned things from the person that actually got the position. Unfortunately, I learned that I didn't want to be that guy, because I didn't like the way that he operated. So I ended up leaving and going to the city of Reno, where I was able to flourish there. I had some really great mentors. And the one that I was working with in Reno, she reminded me, when I was talking about retirement, says, when we met, you remember what you said? I said, well, I think I said hi. She said, yeah, you said hi. And I introduced myself, and I said, what do you want to be? And you, without hesitation, said, I want to be a director. And that was a leap of faith. This is a new person. I don't know how she was going to be. What she did was she trained me. She gave me opportunities to be successful, to get outside my comfort zone, that when that director position got available down in Padre Dam to run Santee Lakes, I was the top candidate for that.
Mm. Yeah.
So, we all have these opportunities that we're afraid of failure.
Mm.
Well, if there's a saying, if you're not failing, you're not really trying. If you're just doing and being a cookie cutter thing, well, so I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but if you're looking at going to that next level and improving yourself, you have to be willing to fail. And be able to take the failure as a growth experience. I've had failures, and I've internalized them and got mad at myself and everything. And what I learned from my good mentors are, if you're not failing, you're not really trying.
Mm.
You're doing cookie cutter, and those experiences will make you a better person. Same thing that happened in my relationship with my family. Same
Mm.
thing that happened in these positions. And I use that as opportunities for me to mentor other people, to go ahead and get and to go outside their comfort zones. And I've been very fortunate, knocking on wood, that when I've left the organization better. And I've also given opportunities for those to either take my position when I leave, or be successful someplace else.
Yeah. I love that story about your marriage. I had something similar happen in my family. My oldest daughter did not get married in the Catholic Church, and that whole side of the family just did not even attend. And now they're like huge fans of their children, and they love that daughter. And then we had something similar happen to us when we started having all these kids. And I remember going to my mom, and I was like, which one do you want me to give up for adoption? And she's like, I don't want to do that. And so, because they were like, y'all need to stop having all these children and stuff. But I think Parks and Rec professionals kind of find themselves in a similar boat, that maybe their parents want them to be a doctor and a lawyer, and they see that you're going to go into Parks and Rec, and they're like, you're going to starve to death, and how are you going to support your family? But you just have a passion for working with people and building community and making a difference when you're young. And I've had guests on the show come back and say, now my mom is that she brags on me all the time and what I do and look what my daughter does. And look, she ran this 4th of July celebration. And, you know, they're afraid for you. And maybe that's not their life choice, but I mean, it's your life, and you're the one that has to live it. And so if you want to be in Parks and Rec and your heart's there, you know, I would say just follow your heart and let the other family members get used to it. They'll come along eventually.
That is so, so true. And, I was very fortunate with my parents is that they, had kids that had diverse interests. But you know what? They made it to every game that each one of us had, or every recital, or, my dad was in the military, and then he went to work for Martin Marietta, the technology company. He was really really smart. He did missile construction,
Mhm.
and my mom was in the nursing, taking care of people. They didn't look at us going into whatever field they had, though some of my siblings went into the military and did those things, and none of us went into the medical field. But they were always supportive of what your dream is. Follow your dream, and we'll find ways to help you. And like you said, when I went and got we just had a at the last council meeting, they presented me with my my plaque from for the induction. My mom was the first one up there. She had the biggest smile, and she's like, "I'm so proud of you, Tiger." My nickname is Tiger too. So she said, "I'm so proud of you, Tiger." She always. It's kind of embarrassing, but when your mom's sitting there going, "Oh, this is my son. He does this, he does that," and like, "Mom, I'm just doing my job." "Oh no, you do so much for the community," and that's you always you talk we talk a lot about what's your why. Well, my why is my mom and my family that really see um, what we do as recreators. I talk about being a memory maker. We're the ones that it's the first time fishing, or it's the first time going to the pool, or it's the first time learning karate. And then as they get older, they remember those things, and they have their kids go through the same kind of programs that they went through, and we're making that memory that's passed along from generation to generation. So
Mhm. I love that. You know, I thought about a show that you could make. It could be like Parks on the Water or Fishing in Parks and Rec. I'm like, we could send you across the country to fish at all the different Parks and Rec departments that have water, and you could be doing your live shows from there.
okay, let me go ahead and sign that contract. I can do that. I think is it Jordan who has the one that's
Yeah.
fishing in the car or whatever?
Yep.
I think, see, and those are takes it outside the typical structure,
Mhm.
which I think is really amazing. Actually, uh, now you say it's okay, Craig. I was actually going to do it from Launch Point. We have a beautiful lake here in the middle of the city, um, and I was going to do it from the fishing dock while I
Definitely.
was fishing
100%.
and doing interviews. So that might be
Yeah.
a couple of shows that we do, and but yeah, there's so many different avenues that we have that we're just starting to scratch the surface of content that's going to be available for people to um, to spark interest
Mhm.
and new programming. Like I said, not reinventing the wheel, just putting on a different tire.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about being part of that journey, if you will.
Yeah, so here's the vision I have. We'll get you an RV that's got the Daily Parks and Rec show, Papa J, fishing on the front line or something like that, and then he's just traveling all over fishing for a living and talking about Parks and Rec, catching fish, reeling them
I don't
in.
know. You know what? I would have to talk to John Prue about stealing his tagline, because
Yeah,
his is, yeah. What's John's? John's is the front lines.
yeah, on the front line.
So
Yep, he
it'd
could
be
be
the John Prue series. So, but no,
that's right.
I love that. Outdoor shows. I think would
Yeah,
podcasts would be really great. The biggest concern of course, has to do with being able to connect and everything like that. But
Starlink.
yeah.
Starlink solves that problem. If they can get
True,
Starlink to
very
work in
true.
a war zone, we can definitely get it to work in some city in America out on some.
Yes, definitely.
All right. So at the end of the show, we have like a tradition, and I think you're going to love this one. I ask my guests a question that was left for them by some of our previous guests, and that way it kind of connects the show guests to each other. They're kind of leaving something for them. So the two I picked for you is how did your team do on the NFL draft that recently happened? Well, what team do you support?
Okay, so I'm Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, stop laughing. We haven't won anything since VHS tapes were playing.
Oh, I'm a
In
Saints
the
fan,
90s.
so you've got no room to talk here. We think
And,
but yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
and so we've the closest we've been is I think we had playoffs in the mid 2010 to 20 when Dak came on. Our biggest problem has been defense, really bad on defense. Our offense has been pretty good, but defense has been bad. So, long story short, we made some really good moves. Actually, we got the number one edge rusher, Caleb Downs. And then we got some backfillers for our defense. We also got an offensive tackle. Long story short, I think we're going to be much better. Usually everybody says, "Oh, Cowboys years next year." I don't say that kind of stuff. I say if we make it to 500, we'll be fine. This I think will be much better. So I think we did well. Ray Jones typically doesn't do it. This year, I think he might have actually made some good stuff happen.
It's crazy to hear you talk about the Dallas Cowboys like that, because I remember when I was young growing up where it was just like, who's going to play the Dallas Cowboys in the championship? Because it's going to be them and somebody else. They were just killing it. And I think it was the 80s and 90s where they were just, every year.
The 90s.
Yeah. All right. So the other question is, if you're making nachos for yourself, what are you going to put? If you're ordering nachos, what do you put on them?
Okay. If I'm making nachos, so I have my tortilla chips. I use grated cheese. I use shredded chicken, and shredded beef. So maybe carne asada, and buffalo chicken, shredded chicken, cheese, beans. This is really good. Jalapenos, olives, covered with sour cream. It can be microwaved, but it has to be eaten right away while the cheese is still hot. Because if you wait too long, it gets stiff. Oh, yeah, and that's the other thing too, Craig. There has to be cheese on every chip. I hate it when you get and there's not cheese on every chip. So you're putting down your layer, and then you got your cheese, and you put some meat in it, and then you put on another layer of cheese, and then the decoration is really the beans, and use two types of beans. You go ahead and use the mashed up beans. I don't know what. Okay, and then you use regular black beans on top, and then you got olives and shallots and sour cream.
Oh man. Okay. So a slight shift in my vision. Instead of an RV, it's going to be a food truck with a bed, with a bed in the back.
Papa J's fishing and food trucks. So
fishing and food trucks. You'll be the biggest hit at every festival in high demand in the country. Yeah. Well, Papa J, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you for agreeing to be on this crazy team. I think it's most important that we're just having a good time, and I think we are. This is just a great industry to talk about, and I think it's a privilege to be able to speak on behalf of this industry.
Well, thank you so much, and that's the kind of show that the Friday show is going to be. It's as Shane says, it's going to be bellying up to the bar with Papa J at the Dr. Pepper Club, because getting to know people and connecting with people, I think, is really important. We go ahead and talk about the nuts and bolts of park and recreation, but there's a human side of it too that we want to make sure that we connect. And Craig is just not Craig. Craig has a family. Craig loves this. Craig loves that, and so I think the more we personalize it, it's really good for people.
Yeah. I got Sherry over here screaming in the background. What's his question? Reminded me. All right. So
my question.
what's your question for the next guest?
For the next guest, I'll do two because some people might not do it. So if they fish, do they like lake fishing or do they like ocean fishing, and why?
Ooh, okay. Let me get your answer to
Yeah,
that one for the next question.
Yeah, and then what if they had a favorite car as a kid? Did it change as they got older? So
Oh,
mine
man,
was,
these are great.
mine was a Nova. I had a '68 Nova, and I was really proud of that. But now, what I want is like a Mustang, a classic Mustang, totally original, vintage that I can take out on the weekends, and Janelle and I can put down the top and go. The Nova was one I actually used to made it a lowrider because we heated the springs. This is an old school thing, and it was really cool. But now I just want to, have, as Craig as it is, we'd have the wind blow through our hair.
That's right. Had to get
In
his
my
hair done
nose.
just for the show.
So yeah, that's my questions.
Yeah, Sherry's going crazy over here. That's what she wants. She wants an old classic 67 Mustang. I want the convertible. She wants the one without, with a roof.
What we could do is then you and Sherry and Janelle and I, we can cruise together with our Mustangs down the highway and stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of like Thelma and Louise, but we would live. We wouldn't die. So that's
All right. So as we keep dialing Papa J's future life in, so it's going to be a food truck with a bed in the back for fishing, towing, a classic Mustang convertible. I think we're getting it.
And there's enough room for the grandkids. Janelle's not going to be happy unless you see the grandkids every other day. So
that's it. Gonna have to be a tour bus now.
There you go.
The window to create nachos. That's what we need. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Look forward to creating content with you. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and thank you so much for your service there at Lake Elsinore. How do you say
Yes,
it?
sir. Lake Elsinore. Yes, sir. Lake Elsinore.
Yeah. Well, have a great
thank
weekend.
You so much, Craig and Sherry. Hi. How you doing? Janelle says hi. By the way, she can't wait to go dancing again at the next conference.
Let's do it. The women drag us everywhere.
There you go.
Have a great rest of your day. Take care.
You too. Take care.
Right. Bye-bye. All right. So that was our first show with Papa J. So that's going to be looking for that every Friday. He's just going to help extend the leadership series and with a little extra twist on it with the Dr. Pepper Club. We didn't even get to talk about that. So you're going to have to attend the next Friday show to know more about that. So that's all we have for excuse me, that is not all we have for today. Hold tight. Go grab another cup of coffee because up next, we have the Aquatics Life, a Friday show every Friday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, all things aquatics with our very talented host, Wesley King. So stay tuned. See y'all here in a bit. Love you guys. Thanks a lot. Bye.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, plus email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders. An audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom-branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.